Commander Arya Kale stood motionless on the observation deck of the Varuna-class survey cruiser, Seraphis, watching the void drift by. The ship glided through uncharted space in the deep fringe sector, bordering the Vossian Empire. She wore a battered dark gray uniform, its collar stiff against her neck, the fabric worn but impeccably maintained, like discipline itself made cloth. "Commander." The voice belonged to Lieutenant Haruki Nakamura, her second in command. "Forward sensors have detected something unusual." Kale didn't turn. Her reflection in the reinforced glass showed a face weathered by radiation and time, eyes that had seen too much during the Declaration Wars. "Define unusual, Lieutenant." "Energy signatures consistent with a battle group. Vossian registry." Now she did turn. "Show me." The holographic display illuminated between them, projecting a tactical overlay of the surrounding sector. 12 red markers drifted in formation, approaching the Seraphis from galactic north. Private Vossian battle group insignia flashed beside each marker. "They've crossed into neutral space," Nakamura observed. "No authorization codes." Kale's jaw tightened. "This sector falls under Galactic Council non-intervention mandates. They know that." "Should we hail them, Commander?" "Prepare a standard diplomatic frequency." She straightened her uniform, fingertips brushing against the faded insignia that marked her former service as a peacekeeper. A lifetime ago, before the treaties, before Earth surrendered its might and accepted confinement to memory. The Seraphis carried only 12 crew members, a sparse complement for a survey vessel. Resource constraints had grown worse over the past 3 months. Hydroponic failures, radiation sores from shield deterioration, water rationing, but none complained. Discipline was their shield now. Before Nakamura could open the channel, the ship's automated defense network activated. A single point defense turret tracked and fired. A brief flash of light that vaporized what could only have been a scout drone approaching from an oblique angle. "Defensive systems engaged," announced the ship's tactical officer, Ensign Soji, her voice steady despite the implications. Automated countermeasures detected stealth infiltration attempt. Kale accessed the threat analysis with quick, practiced movements. "A probe, testing our response capabilities." The main view screen flickered, displaying a massive Vossian dreadnought decloaking less than 20,000 kilometers away. Its gun ports were already open. "Evasive maneuvers!" Kale ordered. But the words had barely left her lips when the first barrage struck. The Seraphis shuddered violently, emergency lights flooding the bridge with crimson. "Hull breach on decks 3 through 5, Soji reported. "Life support failing." "Evacuate to emergency pods," Kale commanded. "Nakamura, initiate Black Protocol." The lieutenant's eyes widened. "Commander, the treaty—" "They fired first," Kale said, voice cold with certainty. "Rule Arcanus." As they rushed toward the escape pods, the ship heaved again. Kale found herself with only 3 others when they sealed the hatch. Lieutenant Nakamura, Ensign Soji, and tech medic Lyra Faust, whose hands trembled as she secured herself in the acceleration harness. The pod ejected into the void, its small engines firing to put distance between them and the dying Seraphis. Nakamura handed Kale a small black cube, the hyper relay transmitter. Kale's finger hovered over its activation panel. Centuries of peace hung in the balance. Humanity had been believed broken and disarmed for generations. Their military might dismantled under Galactic Council oversight. A necessary sacrifice for stability, they'd been told. But the oldest protocols remained. She pressed her thumb to the scanner and spoke 6 words. "Black Protocol, Rule Arcanus. Authentication, Kale Delta 7. The cube hummed, then emitted a soft pulse as it transmitted its signal across impossible distances, piercing subspace to reach its destination, Earth. "What happens now?" Faust asked, her medical scanner already evaluating the radiation burns on Soji's exposed wrist. Kale watched through the pod's viewport as the Seraphis exploded in silent fury, illuminating the darkness. "Now we wait," she answered, "and they learn why the oldest rule in the galaxy exists." Deep beneath Vega's ice crust, in bunkers that officially did not exist, alarms sounded for the first time in 2 centuries. Admiral Soren Vale lifted his head from tactical simulations as the facility awakened around him. Status panels that had remained dormant for generations now glowed with urgent light. He recognized the pattern immediately. A black protocol transmission. Rule Arcanus. Confirm signal authenticity. He ordered the facility's AI. Signal authenticated, responded the artificial intelligence designated Hades Relay. Its voice echoed through the chamber with unsettling calm. Origin, Varuna-class survey cruiser, Seraphis. Commander Arya Kale transmitting, vessel status, destroyed. Vale's weathered face betrayed no emotion, though his heart hammered against his ribs. 2 centuries of peace, or at least the absence of open war, potentially ended by this single transmission. "Summon the Council of Admirals," he said. "Priority Alpha." Within 30 minutes, 12 holographic figures materialized around the central table. Among them was fleet strategist Dara Keen, her silver hair pulled back in a severe bun, eyes sharp with intelligence honed over decades of theoretical warfare. "The signal has been verified," Vale began without preamble. "Vossian aggression against a Council-sanctioned survey vessel. Commander Kale initiated Rule Arcanus." "After 200 years of dormancy?" Admiral Thorsten scoffed. "This could be a malfunction, or worse, a trap." "The authentication codes are valid," Keen interjected. "And telemetry confirms Vossian ships in that sector, where none should be." "Even if true," said Admiral Zhang, "we must consider our response carefully. The Galactic Council believes our military capabilities have been dismantled per the Treaty of Eridani. Activating the Ghost Fleet would constitute a violation." "They fired first," Vale said, echoing Kale's words. "Rule Arcanus is clear. Unprovoked aggression against human vessels permits proportional response." "Proportional?" Admiral Thorsten laughed bitterly. "1 survey ship against 12 ghost dreadnoughts? The Council will see it as an overreaction." "They'll see nothing," Keen countered, "until it's done." Silence fell over the chamber as the implications settled. Humanity had maintained peace by projecting weakness, by allowing the galaxy to believe they had surrendered their military might. In truth, the Ghost Fleet, 12 dreadnoughts and dozens of cruisers, had been hidden in plain sight, disguised as decommissioned hulks or mining platforms. Their weapon systems dormant but intact. "We should vote," Vale said finally. "All in favor of activating the Ghost Fleet?" One by one, lights illuminated before each admiral. 10 in favor, 2 against. "The motion carries," Vale announced. "Hades. Initiate wake protocols for all Ghost Fleet vessels. Authorization, Vale Omega-9. Wake protocols initiated, the AI confirmed. Estimated time to combat readiness, 12 hours. As the meeting dispersed, Keen remained behind with Vale. 200 years of peace, she murmured. Gone in an instant. "Peace is an illusion maintained by strength," Vale replied. "The Vossians forced our hand." "And what of Commander Kale, her escape pod?" "Already located. Extraction team en route." Vale's gaze hardened. "She'll need to command the Acheron." Keen's eyebrows rose. "The flagship? Are you certain? She's been a survey commander for years." "Before that, she was one of our finest tactical officers. And she triggered Rule Arcanus. She should see it through to its conclusion." "May the Void have mercy on the Vossian Empire," Keen said softly. "Because Arya Kale will not." The rescue craft found Kale's pod drifting near an asteroid field, 48 hours later. By then, the survivors had fallen into an uneasy routine. Faust treating their injuries with limited supplies. Nakamura maintaining communication silence. Soji calculating their trajectory and life support duration with precise, nervous energy. Kale herself had barely spoken, lost in the weight of her decision. When the rescue ship's docking clamps secured the pod, she felt no relief, only the certainty that wheels were now in motion that could not be stopped. The airlock cycled open to reveal a figure in a uniform Kale hadn't seen in years, the deep blue of Earth Fleet Command, bearing the insignia of an extraction specialist. "Commander Kale," the officer said, saluting. "Lieutenant Wade, Earth Fleet. Admiral Vale sends his regards." Kale returned the salute automatically. "My crew. All accounted for. Commander, please come with me, there's little time." The rescue vessel was small, but swift, its engines pushing the limits of conventional physics. Nakamura settled into a quiet conversation with the pilot, while Faust immediately sought the medical bay to properly treat Soji's worsening radiation burns. Wade led Kale to a secure briefing room and activated a holographic display. "Rule Arcanus has been implemented," he said without preamble. "The Ghost Fleet awakens." The display showed 12 massive vessels in various stages of activation. Weapon systems coming online, engines warming, crews being rapidly assembled from sleeper facilities across Earth's territories. Kale stared at the ships with a mixture of awe and dread. These were the legendary dreadnoughts of humanity's past glory, vessels thought dismantled under Galactic Council supervision. Their very existence violated countless treaties. "How?" she asked simply. "Hidden in plain sight," Wade explained. The Acheron, for instance, was disguised as a deep space refinery in the TRAPPIST system. Thanatos and Nemesis were embedded within asteroid mining operations. The others scattered across human space, inactive but intact. The Council never suspected. "We gave them what they wanted to see, a broken humanity, accepting its reduced place in the galactic order." Kale's fingers traced the outline of the lead vessel on the display. "And now you take command of the Acheron." She turned to him sharply. "I'm a survey commander. You were tactical lead on 3 battlecruisers before accepting your current post," Wade countered. "And you triggered Rule Arcanus. Admiral Vale was explicit. You will command the response." Guilt twisted in Kale's stomach. One decision, made in the heat of crisis, now unleashed ancient war machines. What hope for peace remained once this Pandora's box opened? "The Vossians have already seized 2 more human outposts since destroying the Seraphis," Wade added, sensing her hesitation. "They believe us vulnerable." "And the Galactic Council?" "In emergency session. Their delegates protest, calling our reactivation a treaty violation." "It is." "So was the unprovoked destruction of the Seraphis." Wade's expression hardened. "We've honored peace for 2 centuries while others prepared for war. No more." As the rescue ship accelerated toward the rendezvous point with the awakening Ghost Fleet, Kale found herself drawn back to the viewport. Stars streaked by, each one representing systems and planets that might soon know war again. Had she doomed the galaxy to fire with 6 simple words? The Acheron hung in space like a predator awakening from hibernation. Its matte black hull absorbed rather than reflected light, making it seem like a void in the shape of a warship. At 15 kilometers from bow to stern, it dwarfed anything the Vossian Empire currently fielded. Kale's shuttle approached the dreadnought's main hangar, passing through a shimmering barrier that separated vacuum from atmosphere. Inside, hundreds of crew members moved with purpose, preparing the ancient vessel for combat operations. Admiral Vale waited on the hangar deck, his uniform pristine despite the circumstances. Beside him stood Dara Keen, her analytical gaze sweeping over Kale and her surviving crew. "Commander," Vale said, extending his hand. "Welcome to the Acheron." Kale clasped his forearm in the traditional military greeting. "Admiral, I wasn't expecting a personal reception. These are unprecedented times." His eyes reflected the seriousness of their situation. "Your crew will be assigned quarters and duties. Lieutenant Nakamura will serve as your executive officer, Ensign Soji, once cleared by medical, will join navigation. Tech Medic Faust has been requested in Medical Bay. We're short on experienced radiation specialists. And me? The bridge awaits you, Commander. Vale gestured toward a nearby lift. But first, a briefing. The Admiral's private war room was sparse but functional. A holographic tactical display dominated its center, showing the positions of all Ghost Fleet vessels and known Vossian forces. The situation has escalated, Keen began without preamble. The Vossian Empire has declared that the fringe sectors are now under their protection, a thinly veiled annexation. Their battle groups have moved against 3 more human outposts, Vale continued. Minimal casualties so far, but their intention is clear. Conquest, Kale said quietly. Precisely. Vale manipulated the display, highlighting key strategic positions. We've developed a 3-vector response. Operation Tripartite. The hologram shifted to show 3 distinct attack corridors. Vector 1. Sabotage Vossian supply infrastructure. Orbital refueling arrays and munition foundries, Keen explained. Vector 2. Decapitation strike on enemy command satellites and high-orbit nexus points. Vector 3. Seal ancient jump lanes and ambush fleeing vessels in relic corridors. A simultaneous assault, Kale asked, studying the vectors. Yes, the Acheron will lead Vector 2, the command decapitation, Vale said. Admiral Zhang commands Vector 1, Admiral Thorsten Vector 3. Our objective is not occupation or territorial gain, Keen added. This is purely punitive, to demonstrate that aggression against humanity carries consequences. Kale's finger traced the projected path of the Acheron. These maneuvers require precision timing across vast distances. That's why each vector has its own flagship with autonomous authority, Vale explained. Once launched, there's no turning back. A notification chimed softly, and Vale checked his datapad. The Galactic Council has issued a cease and desist order to both sides. The Vossians have ignored it. And us? Kale asked. We acknowledge receipt and continue preparations. Vale's expression was grim. They had 2 centuries to enforce peace. They failed. As the briefing concluded, Kale found herself alone with Keen, who studied her with calculating eyes. You have doubts, the fleet strategist observed. Wouldn't you? This operation could reignite the wars we spent generations recovering from. Perhaps. Keen stepped closer to the tactical display. But consider the alternative. The Vossians sense weakness and strike. Others would follow. How long before humanity faces extinction, rather than mere subjugation? There must be diplomatic options. Diplomacy requires leverage. Commander, Keen's voice hardened. We're about to reacquire ours. On the bridge of the Acheron, Kale stood before the command chair, not yet ready to claim it as her own. Around her, crew members, a mixture of veterans awakened from cryo-sleep and hastily reassigned personnel from throughout human space, worked to bring the ancient systems fully online. Weapon systems at 87% capacity, reported the tactical officer. A stern-faced woman, whose uniform bore the insignia of Mars Defense Command. Targeting algorithms updating to compensate for Vossian shield advancements. Engineering reports quantum drive stabilized, Nakamura added from his station. Though they warn of potential fluctuations above Warp 9. Kale nodded, absorbing the information while examining the main tactical display. The 12 dreadnoughts of the Ghost Fleet had taken position at their respective vector starting points, supported by smaller cruisers and frigates. For vessels supposedly decommissioned centuries ago, they presented a formidable armada. All Ghost Fleet vessels report ready. Commander, announced the communications officer, awaiting your order to commence Operation Tripartite. Kale finally settled into the command chair, feeling its contours adjust to her form. Open fleet-wide channel. The officer complied, and a soft tone indicated the connection was live. This is Commander Arya Kale aboard the Acheron. Her voice carried across the void to every vessel in the Ghost Fleet. 200 years ago, humanity accepted limitations on our military capability as the price of galactic peace. We honored that bargain while others prepared for war. She paused, weighing her next words carefully. The Vossian Empire has broken faith with that peace. They fired upon an unarmed survey vessel without provocation. They have seized human outposts and declared our territory their own. They have ignored Galactic Council mandates to withdraw. The bridge remained silent, all eyes on her. Today, we remind the galaxy of the oldest rule: do not mess with humans. Operation Tripartite commences in 30 seconds. Vector commanders, confirm readiness. Vector 1, ready, came Admiral Zhang's voice. Vector 3, ready, Admiral Thorsten confirmed. Kale met Nakamura's gaze across the bridge. He gave a single, solemn nod. Vector 2, ready, she declared. Execute. The Acheron surged forward, its massive engines propelling it toward the first jump point. Behind it, 4 cruisers and 8 frigates followed in tight formation, while the other vectors diverged toward their own objectives. As they approached the jump point, Kale felt the familiar tension that preceded faster than light travel. The navigation officer, not Soji, who remained in medical bay, counted down the seconds. Jump in 3, 2, 1. Reality twisted, stretched, and reconstituted as the Acheron tore through subspace. When they emerged, they were deep in Vossian territory, less than 1 million kilometers from the primary command nexus that coordinated the Empire's military operations in this sector. No alarm signatures detected, Tactical reported. Surprise achieved. Launch ghost drones, Kale ordered. Establish perimeter. Dozens of small, unmanned craft ejected from the Acheron's launch bays, speeding toward predetermined coordinates to create a detection net around their operation zone. First target, Orbital Command Array Delta, weapons free. The Dreadnought's main cannons charged with a low, building hum that vibrated through the deck plates. When they fired, there was no dramatic light show, no thunderous report, just the silent release of concentrated energy across space. The Vossian Command Array, a sprawling structure of interconnected modules and communication dishes, simply ceased to exist. One moment present, the next atomized. Direct hit, Tactical confirmed. Target destroyed, no survivors. Kale refused to let satisfaction or remorse color her thoughts. Proceed to secondary targets. Maintain communications blackout. The Acheron moved methodically through its assigned vector, the supporting vessels fanning out to engage designated objectives. Each strike was precise, measured, and devastating. Vossian defense platforms, early warning systems, and command relays disappeared one after another. An hour into the operation, the first counterattack came. 3 Vossian cruisers dropped out of FTL travel directly in their path, weapons already charging. Evasive pattern Kappa, Kale ordered calmly. Countermeasures active. Target their propulsion systems. The Acheron banked with surprising agility for its size, energy shields absorbing the initial Vossian barrage. Its return fire was surgical, not aiming to destroy, but to cripple. 2 of the enemy cruisers drifted powerless in space less than 30 seconds later. The third managed to send a transmission before Nakamura jammed their communications. They've alerted their main fleet, he reported. Estimated response time, 12 minutes. Enough time to complete our primary objective, Kale said. Proceed to the High Orbit Nexus. The High Orbit Nexus was the crown jewel of Vossian military infrastructure in this sector, a massive space station that housed their fleet command, intelligence operations, and strategic planning facilities. Destroying it would effectively blind and paralyze their forces across multiple systems. As the Acheron approached, however, a communication request flashed on the main screen. Incoming transmission from the Vossian flagship Imperial Decree. The communications officer announced. Their commander is requesting direct dialogue. Flagship? Nakamura questioned. Intelligence suggested it was 3 systems away. They've moved faster than anticipated, Kale noted. Put it through. Audio only. The bridge speakers crackled with a voice that conveyed both authority and barely controlled fury. This is Regent Naral Sor of the Vossian Empire. You have committed acts of war against our sovereign territory. Identify yourself and state your purpose. Kale gestured for the channel to be opened. This is Commander Arya Kale of the Earth, Dreadnought, Acheron. You destroyed an unarmed human survey vessel and seized human outposts without provocation. We are responding in kind. A moment of silence followed before Sor replied. The Seraphis fired first, destroying a diplomatic drone. Your response is disproportionate and violates countless treaties. As does your presence in neutral space, Kale countered. The drone was employing stealth technology consistent with infiltration protocols, not diplomatic registry. Sensors can be misinterpreted, Sor said smoothly. A regrettable misunderstanding that need not escalate further. Withdraw your forces, and we will discuss reparations for this unfortunate incident. Tactical flashed an urgent alert on Kale's display. Multiple Vossian vessels emerging from jump points around them. The Imperial Decree, a massive dreadnought in its own right, appeared on long-range scanners, accompanied by a substantial escort. Your actions speak louder than your words, Regent, Kale replied, signaling Nakamura to prepare for combat. You speak of peace while positioning for attack. A precaution only, Sor assured her. Surely you understand the need for insurance during delicate negotiations. Another alert. Vector 1 reporting successful destruction of 3 major Vossian supply depots. Vector 3 had sealed 2 jump lanes and engaged multiple enemy vessels attempting to flee the sector. Operation Tripartite was succeeding across all fronts. I understand the consequences of breaking the oldest rule in the galaxy, Kale said finally. This is not a negotiation. Regent Sor, this is a reminder. She cut the transmission and turned to tactical. Target the high-orbit nexus. Maximum yield. The Vossian fleet will be in weapons range in 40 seconds, Nakamura warned. That's 30 seconds more than we need. Kale's voice was steel. Fire when ready. The Acheron's main weapons charged again, drawing massive energy from its core. When they released, the combined force struck the nexus at its central hub, triggering a chain reaction that spread outward through its connecting structures. The explosion bloomed silently in space, a flower of destruction visible across the entire system. Target destroyed, tactical confirmed. Vossian flagship altering course, accelerating toward our position. All vessels in Vector 2 converge on my coordinates, Kale ordered. Prepare for direct engagement. The Imperial Decree grew larger on their view screen, its weapon ports glowing with gathering energy. Smaller Vossian vessels moved to flank it, forming a battle wedge aimed directly at the Acheron. Incoming transmission from Regent Sor, communications announced. Ignore it, Kale said. Tactical, target their weapons arrays first, then propulsion. Commander, Nakamura interjected. Vectors 1 and 3 report mission complete. Admiral Vale is requesting status. Tell him we're concluding operations momentarily. Kale stood from the command chair, moving closer to the tactical display. Coordinate firing solutions with our support vessels. Execute on my mark. The distance between the 2 flagships closed rapidly. At 10,000 kilometers, point-blank range in space combat, Kale gave the order. Fire! The Acheron and its escort ships released their full arsenal simultaneously. The coordinated barrage overwhelmed the Vossian shields, tearing through armor and severing critical systems. The Imperial Decree listed to port, secondary explosions rippling along its hull. Yet it managed to return fire, lancing energy beams connecting with the Acheron's shields in brilliant displays of contained power. Shields at 60%. Tactical reported. Minor damage to outer hull sections. Maintain position, Kale ordered. Prepare second volley. Before they could fire again, the communications officer called out, Priority transmission from the Imperial Decree. They're They're activating an ancient surrender beacon. The bridge fell silent. The surrender beacon was a relic protocol established centuries ago during the Declaration Wars, a signal that could not be faked or misinterpreted. Verify, Kale demanded. Confirmed, Nakamura said after a moment. The beacon signature matches historical records. They're surrendering. Kale, watch the crippled Vossian flagship on the screen. Its once proud silhouette, now marred by damage and venting atmosphere. Around it, the remaining Vossian vessels had powered down their weapons. Open channel to Regent Sor, she said quietly. When the connection established, the voice that came through was subdued, stripped of its earlier arrogance. Commander Kale, the Vossian Empire acknowledges your point. We activate the surrender beacon and request cessation of hostilities. All Vossian forces will withdraw from human territories and neutral space immediately, Kale stated. Not a request, but a command. You will make reparations for the destruction of the Seraphis and the seizure of human outposts. Agreed, Sor replied, the words seemingly painful to utter. The Galactic Council will oversee your compliance, Kale continued. Any further aggression against human vessels or territories will trigger a response that makes today look like a mere warning. Silence stretched between them before Sor spoke again. The rumors were true. Then, humanity never truly disarmed. We honored peace, Kale corrected him. Today, we honored something else, justice. She ended the transmission and turned to her crew. Stand down from combat stations. Prepare to rendezvous with Vectors 1 and 3 at the designated coordinates. As the Acheron turned away from the defeated Vossian fleet, Nakamura approached her station. Commander, incoming transmission from Admiral Vale. For your eyes only. Kale accepted the secure datapad, reading Vale's simple message. Operation complete. Minimal casualties. The galaxy remembers the oldest rule once more. The weight of what they had accomplished and what it had cost settled over her. Not just the lives lost in the initial attack on the Seraphis, but the potential repercussions throughout the galaxy. Would other powers now fear humanity? Would this lead to new alliances against them? Or would it secure a more lasting peace through the restoration of deterrence? Set course for the rendezvous point, she ordered, and prepare a memorial service for the crew of the Seraphis. As the Acheron accelerated toward the jump point, Kale remained on the bridge long after most of the crew had rotated off duty. She stood before the viewport, watching the stars streak by, each one a silent witness to humanity's awakened might. The Galactic Council chamber on neutral Arcturus Station hummed with tense energy. Representatives from 47 spacefaring civilizations filled the tiered seating, their conversations a low murmur of concern and speculation. At the center of the chamber, 3 figures stood at separate podiums. Regent Neril Sor of the Vossian Empire, Admiral Soren Vale representing Earth, and High Arbiter Zelan of the Galactic Council. This emergency session will come to order, Zelan announced, his multifaceted eyes scanning the assembly. We are here to address the recent military conflict between the Vossian Empire and Earth forces, and the implications of treaty violations on both sides. Sor spoke first, his voice carrying none of the confidence it had held during his confrontation with Kale. The Vossian Empire acknowledges its error in engaging the human vessel, Seraphis. We have agreed to all reparation terms and have already begun withdrawing from the disputed territories. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The Vossians were not known for admitting fault. Admiral Vale, Zelan continued, Earth stands accused of maintaining military capabilities far beyond those permitted under the Treaty of Eridani. How do you respond? Vale stood straight, his weathered face impassive. The Treaty of Eridani required humanity to reduce its offensive capabilities to levels deemed non-threatening to galactic stability. It did not require us to render ourselves defenseless against unprovoked aggression. Your interpretation is creative at best, Zelan observed. The Ghost Fleet vessels exceed permitted specifications by orders of magnitude. And yet they remain dormant for 2 centuries, Vale countered. Activated only when the Vossian Empire demonstrated hostile intent toward human space. The Council must consider sanctions against both parties. A Proximan delegate called from the upper tier. Perhaps, Vale acknowledged. But first, consider this. For 200 years, humanity honored peace while maintaining the capacity for war. We did not expand. We did not threaten. We did not conquer. We simply ensured our survival. He gestured toward Sor. The Vossian Empire mistook our restraint for weakness. They have been corrected. At what cost? Zelon asked. The balance of power that has maintained stability was illusory, Vale interrupted. True stability comes from mutual respect, not from one side believing the other defenseless. After hours of debate, the Council reached its decision. The Vossian Empire would make full reparations and accept restrictions on its military movements for a decade. Earth would submit to inspections to verify that the Ghost Fleet returned to dormant status, though no demand was made for its dismantlement. Treaty 01 was reaffirmed in the Council records. All signatories acknowledged the sovereignty of member species and the inviolability of their recognized territories. As the session concluded, Sor approached Vale in the antechamber. "Your Commander Kale," he said quietly. "She is a formidable opponent." "She is a reminder," Vale replied, "of what humanity chooses not to be, most days." "A reminder I will not soon forget," Sor assured him before departing. Bah. Commander Arya Kale stood alone on the Acheron's bridge, watching as the mighty vessel powered down its systems one by one. Around it, the other ships of the Ghost Fleet did the same, returning to their disguised positions throughout human space, resuming their dormant vigil. No occupation, no territorial expansion, no triumphant flags planted on conquered worlds. Only the restoration of the status quo, with one crucial difference. The galaxy remembered the oldest rule once more. The door hissed open behind her, and Nakamura entered, carrying a datapad. "Final reports from all vectors. Commander, Operation Tripartite is officially concluded." "Casualties?" she asked, not turning from the viewport. "Remarkably light. 7 confirmed deaths across the Ghost Fleet, 18 wounded, all expected to recover." "And the Vossians?" Nakamura hesitated. "Estimated between 400 and 500, mostly at the command nexus and supply depots." Kale closed her eyes briefly. "Necessary, perhaps, but still lives lost that could not be restored." "Admiral Vale has requested your presence at Earth Command," Nakamura continued. "The Acheron will maintain a skeleton crew while dormant, but most personnel are being reassigned." "And you, Lieutenant?" "Back to Fleet Tactical. It seems," he offered a small smile, "though I've requested to remain your XO if you receive another command." "Loyal to the end," Kale said, returning the smile faintly. "What about Soji and Faust?" "Ensign Soji has been promoted. She'll be navigation lead on the Thanatos when it relocates to its new dormant position. Dr. Faust has accepted a posting at the medical facility on TRAPPIST-4. Dr. Lyra Faust. The tech medic had indeed earned her full title through her actions during the crisis, treating radiation cases throughout the Ghost Fleet with skill that belied her earlier nervous demeanor. "They were a good crew," Kale said quietly. "The Seraphis team." "The best," Nakamura agreed. "Will you accept a new command?" Kale finally turned from the viewport. "I don't know. Part of me feels I should return to survey duty. Remind myself, and others, that humanity still values exploration over conquest." "And the other part?" She ran her fingers along the command chair's armrest one last time. "Knows that someone must keep the watch. Someone who understands both the necessity and the cost of power." They walked together from the bridge, through corridors that would soon fall silent again. Maintenance drones would patrol the empty spaces, keeping systems primed for the next awakening, if it ever came. At the shuttle bay, they found Soji waiting, her bandaged arm in a sling, but her eyes bright with the same nervous energy as always. "Commander," she greeted them, "I wanted to say goodbye before shipping out." "Congratulations on your promotion, navigation lead," Kale said warmly. "Thank you, but—" Soji hesitated. "I'm not sure I deserve it. I was just doing my duty when the Seraphis was attacked." "Sometimes that's enough," Kale assured her. "Where is Dr. Faust?" "Already departed for Trappist-4, Nakamura supplied. She left a message thanking you for your confidence in her." As they boarded the shuttle that would take them to the transit hub, Kale took one last look at the Acheron through the viewport. Even now, its systems reconfiguring to appear as a deep space refinery once more, it maintained an aura of lethal purpose. "Do you think they'll come after us again?" Soji asked suddenly. "The Vossians or others?" "Not for a long while," Nakamura answered. "But someday," she pressed. Kale considered the question as the shuttle pulled away from the dreadnought. "Peace is never permanent, but neither is war. What matters is being ready for both." The shuttle accelerated toward the transit hub, leaving the Ghost Fleet behind. Soon, Kale would stand before Admiral Vale and the other architects of Operation Tripartite. They would analyze its success, debate its necessity, consider its consequences. But in this moment, watching the Acheron fade into the darkness of space, Kale felt the burden of memory pressing against her uniform's lining, the weight of decisions made and lives affected. She had upheld the oldest rule in the galaxy: do not mess with humans. Now she, like humanity itself, would return to quieter pursuits, keeping silent guard over a frontier that might one day know conflict again. As if reading her thoughts, Nakamura spoke softly beside her. "Was it worth it, Commander?" Kale thought of the Seraphis, of its crew scattered across new assignments or memorialized in the void. She thought of the Vossian Empire, chastened but still intact. She thought of the Galactic Council, forced to acknowledge a reality it had chosen to ignore. "Ask me in another 200 years of peace," she replied, as the stars streaked past the viewport, bearing silent witness to humanity's passage.